if you want to be famous, you actually cannot make that your goal. You actually have to make excelling in the craft your goal. Because if you don't excel in the craft, you won't be famous.
Good afternoon,
Good
Jeremy.
afternoon. Yes, it's been a while.
Yes, it's been a while.
It's been
couple
a while.
of weeks.
Couple of weeks.
Yeah,
Okay.
年已经过了。
Yes, the new year is just over.
Just over.
Just over. Okay, but first things first. My name is Jeremy.
My name is Maddy.
We are the
Imperfect
Rainbow.
So today we are doing episode 11. It's a very special episode. If you're listening to this now, you probably know that we are not alone on the table. But let us begin first.
Yes.
What is the name of our episode?
Okay, I got to turn around.
Yes, turn around.
Okay, today's episode is called Listening to Our Inner Voice.
Yes. Why do we want to do this?
So we're just talking about it, right? I think what's the inspiration behind this? I feel that we're living in Singapore, right?
Yeah.
Everybody is living very busy lives. I think a lot of times we fail to listen to the inner voice within us. And this is my observation and what I feel. I think a lot of us we observe people who have, kind of followed their dreams, people who have done well, people who are living their passions. I think a lot of times they have learned to listen to your inner voice. And I think it's something that we need to practice as well.
Yes,
Just
yes.
how we talk about listening to your body, listening to your own emotions. I think that sense of awareness is very, very important.
Yeah, and to add on to that, I think because inner voice belongs to ours and it's only ours to own, and if we are not aware of what comes up, what we say to ourselves, what thoughts come to mind, then the voices of others take over, and then we start to live the lives that people want.
Oh,
So I think, we really want to find and be aware of that inner voice that truly belongs to us, and then just have a deeper connection with ourselves.
That's right. Yeah, not listening to other people's expectations and learning to live your own.
Yes.
Okay.
So today, I am very excited.
Me too.
I'm
me
very,
too.
very, very honored to have a special guest that's sitting on the round table with us.
Yes.
Her name is Genevieve Toh. She is my vocal coach, and I'm her student. And I want to give a very short introduction of how we came about to being all here today.
Let's hear it.
Yeah, so I think it was sometime around Q4 October or something like that.
Yes.
I was in the office function. I was given the opportunity to host some Singapore radio DJs. So this is Flying Dutchman and
I remember this.
Glennon
I remember this.
And what was most unforgettable for me in that short 30-minute session was that I cannot help but feel in awe of how Flying Dutchman sounds like. Because he has this resounding voice.
Yep.
And it's like, there's this surround sound speaker somewhere around the office, but obviously there isn't. And he's not even speaking with a mic.
Yeah.
So he's just, 轻轻地讲话. So I was very impressed and amazed at how come a person can sound like that. Of course, I know he's been a DJ for his lifetime, but I'm just like that sudden curiosity. And then I messaged you, Jeremy.
I
say,
remember that.
How
I remember
come
that.
Flying Dutchman sound like that? What is it in them that make him sound like that? And then what do you respond? Do you remember?
And I said, I think I must have said something like, they have spoken their whole life, in front of the mic, and as DJs, they're extremely experienced, extremely practiced.
Yes.
Yeah. But I really felt that because I was an MC, I've done MC work and all. I always felt that to be able to create that presence, it's so magical, and not everybody has that. It's something you can do with vocal techniques, etc. But to create presence was so difficult.
Yeah.
And that was when I suggested to you, I think, to look for a vocal coach
Correct.
if you're serious in terms of improving your
Yes.
quality of your voice.
Yep.
Yeah.
And
So thank me.
Yes, thank you, Jeremy, for sure. And immediately, so one of the poor micro habit that I've got away is procrastinating. So I do not procrastinate. I did the Google search
Immediately. You did it
And then I
immediately.
chanced upon, so there's this list of vocal coaches, and then I just somehow chanced upon Genevieve Toh. Then I just click into Instagram. Okay, to be my first instant, this person, interesting profile, women, married, have children. Something magical about her profile just speaks to me. I'm like, okay, I'm going to message her. I think by WhatsApp or whatever.
Right.
And quite quickly, we jumped into a 60 minutes call. I can't remember if it's that day or another day. But I cannot forget the feeling throughout that 60 minutes when we had that online virtual consult. And I was telling her, and when I'm talking about it, I still remember that feeling when I speak to Jen, because it's not just the way she speaks, but the feeling that I get when I listen to her voice, and our conversation was like, my whole body is screaming, yes!
Wow.
Yes, you need to sign
Resonating
Jen
with that,
on.
yes.
Yes,
Mm.
it's like my cells are like bursting.
I remember that as well. I remember that moment. I remember that, yes.
Sorry, a bit drama, but it's true lah. But okay, I'm done with that. So anyway, okay then. So I decided to work with Jen, and we have been working as one-to-one vocal teacher and a student relationship for the past few months.
So a few months already.
For a few months already,
Already,
and
okay,
this
got it.
journey has been amazing for me.
Mm.
But today, this is not about me. This is about our special guest, Jen.
Yes.
And we'll like to start the ball rolling.
But maybe first, let's give her a big round of applause and welcome Jen to the room. That's the MC me, right? Yay, round of applause. Okay, so I'm gonna call Jen for short because I'm for sure gonna trip over your name. So Jen is okay,
Jen
right?
is fine.
Okay, perfect. And you know, I just love the way you speak. I just feel that it's light, it's honey, it's to my ears.
It's soothing.
It's soothing.
thank you.
I just feel calm listening to your voice, you know. And I think is it ideal that we're talking about, you know, listening to your
Super
inner
ideal.
voice? Because I think
Ideal.
no pun intended, but you know, voice and voice. But yeah, so we've got a whole series of questions to ask you, you know.
Yeah.
But I think first things first, we are always interested in our guests' stories, right? Because the Imperfect Rainbow is about platform to share stories. And you've had an amazing journey in your life so far. You've lived and worked in the US, you've worked here, worked with different sorts of people. Maybe let's start from the beginning.
Or maybe before that, just introduction. Just
Yes,
introduction
of
of
course, that's it.
who
Just
you are,
introduction,
what you
exactly,
do. Yeah, because I
exactly.
think I jumped in too soon, you know.
So I'm a professional singer, artist, songwriter, mother, wife, daughter, sister, granddaughter. I say all these things because I feel like a lot of things in my life are very centered around family as well. And very much of who I am as a mother and wife and a person in a big family feeds into my professional life as
Exactly.
well.
And hence you talk about having multiple roles and wearing multiple hats.
We do, don't we?
All the
you
time.
know, especially women in today's
Yes.
age. Yeah. I produce my own music, I direct, I write, I have a vast creative life. And then I'm a voice coach as well. I always say that last because it's a very important part of my life, but it's an area of overflow. I have to be the other things. And I always tell Madeline this, coaching is all about overflow.
Wow.
It's not work, it's overflow. So you have to live that part of your life that you love so much first. And then you're only able to impart that to other people out of joyful overflow.
That's
So
incredible.
that's who I am.
Yeah.
In a
That
nutshell.
kind of reminds me of, and thanks for sharing that as an introduction.
Yeah.
It
It's not
kind of-
just your career, it's so many other things.
I mean, she's talking about how her personal life fuels her joy, her work, her passion, right? And that kind of reminds me of something. You know, we talk a lot about, you know, taking care of ourselves before we can take care of other people. And I remember somebody saying this before that, you know, we need to make sure that our tank is full, because if not, you're always giving out a place of lack.
Demand.
Yeah, exactly. And at some point in time, if your tank is not full, you can't give anymore. What can you give? So you have to first take care of yourself. Make sure your tank is full. So I love the analogy. I love the idea of just, I'm coaching because it's an overflow of my life and my energy.
Yeah, and I think this speaks into a theme that both of you always so prodigiously mention in so many of your episodes, which I think you're trying to encourage people to have holistic lives. You're trying to get them to have connection. We don't want people to just go to work, hate it, come back, face a different
Yes,
thing. You know,
yes.
you keep asking people, is there much more to your life? So actually, I think what everybody needs is wholeness. You know, we don't want to feel like we hate any one part of our lives. We want to feel like there's wholeness and harmony in so many parts of our lives. So
Yeah.
I think that speaks to that.
Okay, nice.
And Jen, tell us, thank you for the introduction,
Yeah.
and tell us a bit about your journey with singing,
Yeah.
using your voice as a vessel in coaching and songwriting, your artistry. Tell us a little bit more.
Yeah. So singing came into my life at the end of a very dark season. So I had a very, very troubled young adulthood, and it all centered around a very broken family. So my dad got into a lot of trouble, And I know this is a lighthearted show, so we're going to keep this all really like
No
positive.
worries. Keep it authentic.
Yeah, authentic.
Real.
We are
It's
real.
real.
We are
It's
very
anything that you're willing to
authentic.
share.
Yeah.
Yeah,
No
so-
filter. We always
No
say.
filter.
That's great.
And
I really don't have a filter.
Is okay too.
Yeah. So my whole previous young life was centered around solving a lot of the problems in my family. And I was the oldest of 3 sisters. I was like a taikaze, you know.
You are taikatse.
Yeah,
I
so-
feel you.
sister.
I'm the
Yeah.
big brother. I
Yeah.
hear you.
So it centered around like my dad going to prison, and there was divorce, and it was really messy. And I remember I was very young, but I had to grow up really fast and do a lot of things like talk to lawyers about the liquidation of assets, you know, like stuff like that. And I had to
Right.
grow up really fast. I had to also sort of look after my sisters who I couldn't be a sister to. I had to like sort of parent them. I remember taking them to like places
Right.
when my parents were very occupied. And then all that came to an end when my dad passed away. And when that happened, a vacuum suddenly occurred in my life because my whole life was centered around that. That now that was gone, my dad was gone, and I was like, what do I do now? And that was the first time. I mean, so sometimes vacuums are great seasons to
Yeah.
be in. They're not necessarily bad. And maybe that's a kind of an inner voice when you think like, there's nothing here. There is nothing. And so you start asking questions because only in a vacuum where you don't hear anything
Right.
that you start asking. So I would say the first key to finding your inner voice is actually to ask. So
What were the questions that you noticed that you were asking or answering yourself?
what do I
during
do
that vacuum?
now? What? And it was really interesting because I never asked these questions of myself. Like there were questions to do with self-identity. Like, who am I without my dad in my life?
Right.
Who am I without all these things to be occupied? And they weren't fun things to be occupied with, you know? So with that, I got into a bit of a crazy adventurous thing, and my husband and I were like, we're ready for anything. So
Anything and everything.
yeah, we're ready for the
Were you in
world.
Singapore or
So
in
that,
US?
yeah, all this happened in Singapore. But when the vacuum came and my
Right.
dad passed, we were like, we're so ready for adventure. When the job came up in New York, we were like, let's go. You know, at that
It
time I was
maybe
so
a form
young.
of escape, perhaps.
Escape, you
I
know,
think so, yeah. Yeah.
escape and just bursting to see more, do more, and I didn't know what I wanted for myself.
Yeah.
You know, so I thought a new geographical location was
Right.
what I hungered for. You know, to run away perhaps. So we got to New York. I was settling the home and settling my family. But when all that came, like we were all in a good place, kids were in school, husband was at work. So I thought I'm going to take up professional singing lessons. Now, before this, I had sung. My roots in singing are, you know, in worship, in church, casual singing, but I never knew to take that seriously or professionally. I was just joyfully, innocently singing, you know, as myself. But this was the first time I was like, I think I want to really sing. And I'm in the Big Apple. Where else but here to engage like the best? So I got myself the best, you know?
I'm very curious. How many years ago was this professional singing course that you took?
Yeah, I started this. So all this happened in 2014. And I want to say this, I mean, and it makes, maybe it's an embarrassing point for myself, but I want to say this to encourage people. This career, this calling, this vocation, this life of purpose started very late when I was 34.
Right.
And I want to say that to all people out there who are, maybe they think they've reached a certain age and they think it's too late to do anything. I say no.
Well,
It
cool
ju-
now.
You feel it.
Okay,
You
sorry,
feel it.
yeah.
Yeah.
You know, never think it's
Never think
think
it's
it's
too
too late.
Never think it's too
You
late.
know,
Yeah.
I did it when
Never
I was
too late
34.
for
I know
calling.
some people who do it even later. So let age never be a limit.
That's such good advice.
Yeah, let
Yeah.
age never be a limit.
Yeah.
I love
yeah.
this. I'm going to write it quote by
Yeah.
Jen.
They're just numbers. you
They're just
know?
numbers.
Yeah.
And there's so much expectations from, you know, in society, right? Like, oh, by 25, you need to graduate and you need to do this. By 30, you
By
need to get
HDB.
married by the HDB flat. By 35, you need to have built your first nest and use that to reinvest into something. Oh my God, why do I know this narrative so well? And then, and then by 40, you're planning for retirement. Like, you know, you almost feel like I just need to hit all these milestones
These are
in
the
my life.
outside voices that we hear.
Exactly, and you kind of
These
feel like
narratives.
these are like the marks of what a successful Singaporean will be like. These are the things I need to have and achieve, and it almost feels like, why must I follow that? Why is it a template that everybody needs to follow? which is why we don't talk about your inner voice, because
Yeah.
you need to listen to what's your tempo. I think everyone's tempo is a bit different.
And imagine if you didn't ask those questions in a vacuum, you wouldn't be figuring it out. You wouldn't just follow your heart and
totally.
hate yourself to New York and then land
You wouldn't be
yourself
so
in a-
open.
Yeah.
I think asking questions generates curiosity and the eyes to keep looking. Is this for me? Is this for me? Is that for me? And that's when you find the answer. Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's when I started singing, and I was just really taking it as a hobby. But I met really influential people in the artistic community
Right.
who always promoted me to be the best version of myself and who made me take myself very seriously. And it's like my voice coach told me to start writing music, and I was like, no, I can't write music. I've never done this in my life. And he was like, I think you would. And so those were the voices that I kept hearing, just do it. What do you have to lose?
Yeah,
you
yeah.
know?
What's holding you back?
So I just wrote my first song, got a lot of encouragement for it.
I'm curious.
Yes.
When you heard that, so when your coach asked you to write a song and you're like, no, I can't write a song. What got you to believing that you can't write a song to then writing that song? What was that navigation? What transited in between?
Just realizing that the voice of discouragement is something that I need to not listen to. Because I was just going to say, like, I think it's easy to keep saying, like, listen to your inner voice, listen to the inner voice. But I want to add on to that humbly and say, like, I think we need to listen to the truthful inner voice. Not every voice is something that we must listen. And we have to, as we grow in maturity, we need to, like, discern. Because there are a lot of voices that we hear in ourselves which are self-condemnatory.
That's true.
Which are self-judgment.
Self-doubt.
Yeah.
And those are lies. So we need to understand that some voices we hear are lies,
Yeah.
and some voices we hear are truthful. And we need to grow in knowing and discernment in knowing which voice to heed.
And what was that truthful voice that spoke to you or you heard that made you then just write that first song?
I mean, I'll have to be very honest. It's okay if I'm being very honest.
Be honest. We love honesty.
This is what this show's all about.
Yeah,
It's all about
because-
honesty.
I mean, that time also coincided with a great spiritual awakening in my life. I used to be a very obedient person. When I say that, I mean like my whole life was to obey my parents, obey protocol,
Right.
obey society, obey government, and obey religious authority. And so my whole spiritual life, and that really affected who I was on the inside. Life is all about doing what somebody else is telling you to do because it's the right thing to do.
Right.
But I realized that was what broke me. Yeah. So when I moved to New York, a lot of things happened, some positive and some negative. Basically, a lot of these experiences taught me there are a lot of voices out there in religion, in politics, in tradition, in institutions that actually are out there to benefit themselves and not you.
Yeah.
And I broke away from religious tradition. And I had a very, very broken negative experience with legalistic religious traditions. But that didn't turn me away from the faith, actually.
Right.
That brought me to a closer relationship with the divine. So I moved away from religion to relationship with the divine.
Right.
And that became a very big source of the inner voice for me. So to answer you directly, what was the voice that encouraged me?
Yeah.
This was the voice. It was the divine voice that said, I love you. I have great plans for you.
Yeah.
Do what makes you joyful. Go and sing, write, create.
Wow. Goosebumps.
Goosebumps. and that spiritual awakening, or that reconnection with God, if I can put into those words, probably also awoke this space of creativity and this well of creativity in you. Wasn't that was how it's like?
We were talking a bit about this just now, and I think this is a great point to come back to. I learned not to live under demand. And because I had this great revelation and experience of divine love, it became supply.
Wow.
You know, so I felt like, and that's where overflow comes from. You know, and I entered into this new phase of life where, you know, instead of doing things for my dad, doing things for this, doing things for school, and doing things to be obedient and good, I became like, no, like divine life is in me. I'm out there to be abundant, to have life, and I just felt like my whole life was I was supplied with words, supplied with melody, supplied with just joy. Because when you're in such a free space, only then are you freed from blindness to set you into a really creative space where you know no boundaries.
Right.
You
Wow,
know?
that's amazing.
Yeah, it's really
That's
I have some
amazing.
questions, but I'll park that aside first, but because I want to continue with your music journey.
Okay.
So then what happened after you started writing your first song?
Then I wrote more and more, and I got more confident about it. Not just that, and the confidence wasn't important. Actually, I was always bolstered by the artists who I was surrounded by to always remind me it's about the joy in the craft. It's about the joy of the craft. And I just learned to enjoy my craft more and more and more. And that, once again, the joy is an oversupply of like, it never ends. It will never end. If you guys love doing what you do, it'll never end.
That's right.
Yeah.
It's true. It's true.
So, and then I eventually had enough to have an album. And then that was the next scary thing. But I had wonderful people who encouraged, you should make an album. You should record music. And I was like, no. You know, that's that bad inner voice again. But I did it. I recorded my first album, spent a lot of money on it, but that was like a huge risk I took. But I don't regret it today. I only say that point because then I made my second album and my third. So the more albums I made, right, I spent less money actually because I learned how to do it more and more myself. So another skill I grew in was actually recording.
Right.
And audio engineering. And I became quite a geek at that, and I really enjoyed that as well.
Which is why you understood all this, right? Because we're in the room and she started talking about,
She's
you know,
able to name the model,
of the
name,
mic.
the type.
What do you have that's different from what I have right now, and now what do I have to observe to be different because of the filter? I'm like, oh my gosh.
Whether the mic will pick up the squeaks in the chair.
Yeah,
like,
so now she has to.
我们在这里已经10多个小
I
时了，我们都不
know.
懂。
So she's like, she's very mindful. Okay,
So
she
now
cannot,
Paul
she
is
cannot
very
have
stressed.
you know, she got the. I'm like, you are a geek right there.
And knowing this from my voice coach for the first time. So all this that she's saying, all these honest stories which we are so humbled to listen, is an honor.
Yeah.
Thank you for listening.
And I actually picked up really two really important points from that. One was the joy of the craft. Oh, I love that.
Yeah, the supply.
I just love that phrase because there is joy in creation. There is joy in just creating.
Yes.
And you're not creating because you want to cut an album. You're not creating because you want to comply with something. You're creating because you enjoy the process of creation. I think it's beautiful. And I think that's where the best work comes from. Because there's such joy when you create something, that something comes out as something so pure, so sincere, so honest, and so authentic.
Yeah.
Because you enjoy the process of creation. That's one thing I really picked up. So I think that, you know, for example, for people like us who are, you know, into this, I almost say that, you know, doing a podcast is creative work as well. I think enjoying the work is so incredibly important. So I don't feel like we're doing work, right? We just enjoy showing up.
I mean, we put in a lot of work for this,
Yes,
but we are enjoying doing it.
Enjoy doing it, absolutely. And go on.
I have a question.
Yes. Go on.
So in your making that album, the first album, so at a point, I believe you have already a bit more spiritually aware and aligned, but still you had the voices to say that, you know, I shouldn't make the album. And then eventually you still went ahead to create your first album. At that point in time, what were kind of the practices or the things that you did to discern that honest voice and the not so good voice? Because I just want to also
the
kind of
detracting voices.
Yeah, because I'm also considering to our listeners, right? You know, I'm sure.
What's practical?
Yes, I'm sure when you're listening, you're like, oh, you know, so inspired by Genevieve's story, which we all are. But like, how is there a practice, and how would you know?
Yes.
How can our listeners know?
Voices are heard, so you have to be careful what you hear. So I just want to tell you that I as I have grown in age, which is great. It's great to grow in age.
Yes, acquiring wisdom.
It is. I have learned more and more what not to receive. Because I've learned that as human beings, there's no such thing as us listening to something and us having an it having a neutral effect on us. Something that we hear will either have a very negative effect or a positive effect. So can I just say this, and no
Please.
judgment, like
Yeah.
I actually don't read the news.
Mm.
Because like
Okay.
it's not a good voice.
Right.
Because look at the fruits. We always want to look. So one practical tip number one, if you want to know if the voice you listen to is something that you should listen to, is look at the fruit. Right?
The fruit that it bears.
If it yields worry, fear, anxiety, stress, that's not a good voice. And then you learn. So it's a practice, you know.
I like that.
But if it brings you light, life, joy, peace, openness, joyful adventure, that's a good voice. And this will keep repeatedly happening in life.
Yep.
Things have to happen by repetition in order for us to like have a practice of it. A second practical tip, and I say that this works for me. I'm not saying this has to work for everybody. My spiritual life is the foundation for my professional, family, marriage, everything, you know. I'm very based on the word, and my entire theology is based on this very simple battle of good and evil. There is evil and there is good. Evil is out to steal, kill, and destroy. But good is out to give life and life more abundantly. So I always follow the things that lead me to life.
Yeah.
Anything that steals, kills, and destroys, I'm going to recognize that as the bad. So I have a very clear picture of good and evil in my life. And I think a lot of people in today's world have lost sight of this very basic. It's almost, if some people hear me saying this, they might think I'm crazy or ridiculous, but I don't think I am. I think I'm going back to the roots.
Yeah, not at all.
There's good and evil, people. Let's recognize that we are caught in like a huge spiritual warfare every day. And the voices that we hear to discourage us, that's a stealing. That's a destroying. That's a killing. So don't listen. Right.
But that sounds like you're very much also in touch with how you're
she
feeling,
feels,
right?
yes.
I think feeling is one, and I do want to talk about the other part about spirituality, right? But you know, and you know, I went in church before, you know, and I was a Christian. Right now, I'm not. But I like how, you know, and again, we're drawing back to what she said earlier. I think there's also like a difference between religion and spirituality and your relationship with God. And again, you know, I think we're not here to tell you which faith to believe in and all that.
Right.
But I do want to say that I do believe in spirituality. I do believe we are living in a world, like this world is not built by itself. I think I believe in science, definitely, but I do believe in a spiritual plane or being, or whichever you call it, right? So I think being in touch with that part of yourself is another thing that you need to be, to realize that it's something that's happening and you need to be a bit more in touch with that. Yeah, I do. I feel it all comes together a little bit. Yeah.
And I cannot agree more because I've never been a religious person. I don't have a religion, but only with self-development work that only started for me a few years ago. Then I start to realize that there is something bigger than me. There is something out there, universe, cosmos, whatever you call it.
Yeah.
But when you start to acknowledge that there are bigger things than you, then the sense of self is just minimized. And then acceptance and embracement, magic can happen. I think at least I'm new to this spirituality thing. I don't use this word often, but I truly agree that we need to embrace it as something bigger. And I think to your point, Jen, you're so aware of how you feel. That gives you that direction and North Star to proceed with that truth, that voice of truth.
For me, though, I make a big distinction between feelings and discernment. I think our feelings are there for us to be aware of how we respond to the environment and to the stimuli in that environment.
Right.
But I don't make decisions by my feelings. Do you know? Let's say like I'm parenting my children and I get angry. You know, anger is a feeling. It's in response to my children and that environment at home. But I shouldn't make a decision based on that anger. Do you know what I mean? So I think feelings are so important and we need to validate them.
Yes.
We need to acknowledge them, but we need to separate that from how we make decisions. And I think this is a very important practical tip with regards to like listening to the inner voice. Because we also need to know there's a difference between our feelings and an objective, whatever divine or bigger inner voice is trying to speak to us.
Right.
Because I know many people or young people that I mentor as a voice coach, they're only listening to feelings and it puts them in a very confused place.
Right.
So we need to, as older, right, mentors, we also need to, yes, your feelings are important. We need to validate them.
Yeah.
We need to know why this happened. Oh, that stimuli happened. Let's see how we don't trigger that again. But we cannot make this. I need to always coach young people. Don't necessarily do what you feel.
That's really good advice.
Yeah.
That's really
and now
good
I'm curious
advice.
that how do we make that into practical tip number 3 for listeners about, it's important to validate the feelings.
Yeah.
And then how do we then make that decision?
Yeah.
With
And I want to stay with that a little bit longer in
Yes.
terms of validating feelings, because I think a lot of us may not always be in touch with the feelings, number one. And for some of us, we may even feel like, whenever I feel certain feeling of confusion or a bit lost, and they want to kind of sweep it under the carpet.
Yeah.
Right? Because they don't want to see the feeling. It's uncomfortable.
It's uncomfortable.
Denial.
Yeah, denial. Because you just admit it, some of these emotions are not, they're not that comfortable to stay with. It's not easy to kind of like, okay, I'm feeling sad right now, I want to stay with it. I think it's not easy, and a lot of us may just go, okay, let's just do something else and just make me forget about that. But I think being able to feel that emotion, to identify that emotion, is actually a really important practice to kind of really know who you are. I think that's important. So I just want to talk a little bit about that, that practice.
And actually, I think acknowledging your feelings actually helps you practically to make the right decisions for yourself. So if I may give an example,
Yes,
like you were
please.
asking me, like, oh, why did you go ahead and make music even though you felt scared to? So what was the feeling? So what was the stimuli in my life? It was go and make music. Go do something totally new and like huge and like it's a huge investment for you. Go and do it. But my feelings were fear. My feelings were worry. My feelings were anxiety.
Right.
But thank goodness I don't listen to them. Right? So what do? So I acknowledge. Only if you acknowledge, then can you recognize. You sort of like stand up and look at it like,
Yes.
okay, that's fear.
Exactly.
Actually, I shouldn't listen to that.
Labeling your feelings.
That's
Yes.
anxiety. I
Ding,
shouldn't
ding.
listen to that.
Yes.
Now that I know, I recognize. So those are from the evil part, So that there comes my good and evil,
Right.
like
Analogy, yeah.
yeah. And then I make a decision. It's like I choose not to go by that. I'm just gonna go. Will I know what the rewards are? No. Will I know what the fruits will be? I don't know. But this is life, and I just believe, and I just hope, and I just faith in life coming. If I just do this, what's creative, and then I just did it. So acknowledgement of feelings helps us to go on to the next step, which is the power of choice.
I like it. So step 1, validate your feelings, acknowledge them, don't rush the feeling to go away, label them, be aware, be friendly with it. And then second one is
See
know
which
that you
side they're
have the,
from.
and
Yeah.
is it a good or evil one?
Discernment, that's a discernment
Then
part, yeah.
You know
Choose.
that you have the power to choose. Very nice.
Yeah, the power of choice.
Yeah.
The power of choice.
I feel that this is like a summary of the 10 episodes that we have done there. Wait,
No, I
the
think
essence,
that's what happens when you bring like-minded people together, I feel, right?
Yes.
Because you're able to resonate, you're able to kind of...
Brainstorming.
Brainstorming, yeah.
And with stories, real stories about fear and good and evil, and then making a decision from it.
So how do you... So I also want to ask, so from there, were there any more lessons that you drew, from your career or your experience in New York? And also what happened after that?
Yeah, after creating 3 albums.
I was growing in the craft so much, but there was always a lot of battles of voices, I like to celebrate what I've gone through my career. Let me just call it my long career right now. Every time if somebody allows me to compare myself with somebody else, I will start to always think I'm worse. Comparison is the worst enemy. So if you keep looking left and right, you forget to look forward or you forget to look up, actually. But I think I needed a good community of people around me to speak life into me.
Yeah.
So my voice coach was that for me, my husband, my family, the spiritual voices that I allowed in my life to listen to. They all always reminded me to go back to the right path. And this happened so much that I became very well practiced in it. So nowadays, I do this faster. The minute I get like a voice that's discouraging or that's
doesn't serve you,
I'm like, shut up. Just let me move on. Yeah. So
Yeah, and you brought up, and this is, and I noticed it was the second time you brought this point up. I'm not sure if you observed it. She talked about this group of people who supported her.
Community.
Yeah.
I think the first example was the one where it said, you wanted to write your songs,
Yeah.
an album, and then this group of people came to you and told you that you could do it.
Yeah.
And right now, again, you're talking about a group of people, a
community,
community
yeah,
of people.
yeah.
So I feel that that's a really good point to
Your
learn.
core group.
Who
Yeah.
are you
Whole group.
surrounding yourselves with?
Correct.
Exactly.
Who you trust.
Yeah, who are you surrounding yourself with? Are you surrounding yourself with good people who know how to support you?
Yeah.
Are these the people who have faith in you?
Yeah.
Are these people who you have deep connections
Yeah.
with?
They're rooting for you.
They're rooting for you,
Yeah.
and you know you can reach out to them anytime, and they'll be there to speak truth in your life,
Yeah.
right? And to kind of shine a light on your path when you can't see clearly in front of you.
Life is fun, we're meant to do it together.
Oh,
So to our
that's so
listeners-
cool, Maddy.
I'm curious, right? So now that we're like, talking a bit about tips, like to our listener, they have friends. Like, I have a group of friends, ma. I have a group of friends that supports me, hangs out with me. But like to anyone who is listening out there, like how will they know whether the community and the group of friends that they're surrounding with are the ones that are rooting for them? Because sometimes, they may the group of friends may say something that they want to hear or not. But how do they tune in?
So
How do you
maybe
know?
let me try to
Yes,
see if I get a question right.
Yeah,
Right?
yeah.
You're trying to ask, how do you identify and form that core group? And if I can quote this a quote from Michelle Obama when she wrote a book, she'll talk about her dinner table. People who come to her dinner table are the people who she will trust. Are the people who will come into her life, kind of rescue her and be in their core group when she needs them. So who is sitting at your dinner table, right? Who is the core group of people that come to you when you need? Is that kind of what
Yeah,
you're
I think
asking?
it's like either how do you form a core group like that, or how do you know the group that you're already in is the right one for you? Yeah, more of that.
Yeah,
It's
good
a very
question.
easy answer for me. It goes back to the same dichotomy of good and evil. True friends, true people who love you are those who push you towards life. They say things to you, do things for you, help you to prosper. Whether in body, health, mind, spirit.
Right.
And there are those that don't. They're completely self-occupied.
Right.
So it's simple.
Right.
And there's no easy way to go about it. You don't read a book to find things.
Yeah.
You just have to live life. You have to try things out. People can only be known through relationships.
Yeah.
So journeying together.
Yeah.
And there's no loss. If you find out after sometimes you know what? This person's not for me. That community's not for me. It's okay. You needed to go through that in order to know that. If you didn't live through that, if you didn't spend that time with them, you wouldn't have known that.
Yeah.
So just live it.
Yeah. Just
Try
live
new
it.
things, try new relationships.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And maybe also sometimes allowing yourself to go into that vacuum to listen and ask yourself questions.
Yeah.
How do I feel when I hang out with this group of people?
Yeah.
What kind of sensations do I get from meeting these friends? Are they the group that supports me to prosper?
To do better,
Or
yeah. To
are they
grow,
the other group that kill, destroy?
Yeah.
Yeah.
One more. There's one
Yeah.
more.
Steal.
Still. Yeah.
Yeah.
I feel that with relationships you can always tell with time. And maybe this is me speaking because I'm in my 40s and I've seen enough, right? I'm not seen enough, I've seen a lot. And I think we all know how it is. We've experienced and that's how wisdom comes about. I think, after a while, you realize that time reveals a lot of things.
Yeah.
I think time reveals intentions, time reveals the true nature of people. So I think a lot of relationships just go through time. So I think don't be so caught up in don't be so caught up with the thought of I must have my core group. I must identify who they are in my life. I think kind of go with the flow and kind of know how we are supporting each other in the journey. People are falling, people are fall out, and then it's okay. But I think the key thing is to know that you need a group of friends to go along in life. Yeah, it's fun to grow, to do life together. Yeah.
And I think as in all things in life, don't be afraid to get messy. I think coming back to Singapore, you asked me what happened after I came back to Singapore.
Right. Yes.
I realized that and I'm able to have the eyes of a local immigrant, right? That and this is something I really want to help Singaporeans with in general, not to be so obligation bounded with the two voices. So I feel like Singaporeans still feel, in general, no, I'm not generalizing, but on average, they feel bad to serve their interest by saying no to things, you know? So they might be stuck in a relationship. Like, how do you discern if something is good or bad? Sometimes many people know that the relationship is bad or the
But they feel
relationship with the
bad.
workplace is bad, but they still stay because I feel bad, or the word is I feel paise to like, it might be selfish of me. No, but I say, okay, go, stand up for yourself, choose what is good for you. Don't always be under demand or
Right.
obligation.
My team needs me. My so and so, my kids needs me, or my work needs me. That kind of thing.
But that's a very self-occupied thing. Isn't it much more free yourself from that. It's kind of like being on the airplane. If there's an emergency, you have to put the oxygen mask on
On
yourself,
yourself first.
This is the whole overflow thing again.
Yes,
You
it goes
cannot
back to that
help
again. I was
other
about to say,
people
yeah.
unless you know what you need and want. So go get it first.
So you feel that, so, you know, and it's interesting you bring that perspective back, right? Because, you know,
Yeah.
you're in Singapore and then you left. So, and I want to ask, how long were you away from Singapore?
A decade.
A decade. A good 10 years.
A good 10 years.
That's a long time.
Yeah.
It's like half of Singapore has changed, you know.
It's
after 10
changed so
years.
much. Yeah.
And you still feel that kind of, you know, when you come back, and that is still something that bothers you feel like?
I mean, I love the country.
Yeah.
I think there's so much good about it, and I'm so thankful for it. But yes, and what I'm saying is not criticism. It's something that I say as a lover of the country, and I want to use what I'm purposed to do to help set people free from the things that bind them to
Yeah.
things that don't prosper them.
Right.
And one of these things is the need to always follow protocol.
Yeah.
Protocol is great. It helps keep things functioning, but I want to just be a little bit of a rebel and say it's not needed everywhere.
Be a rebel.
Yeah, be a healthy rebel. You know,
And do a bit of critical thinking.
critical thinking.
Do a bit of critical thinking and not
Yes.
follow the template.
Yeah.
Not follow the protocol.
Okay, can I just share a story here? I just feel very, 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 very let us
You
share a
might
story.
share. You look like you have
It's
to.
totally about this. Oh my god. Okay, so it's like breaking news, right? Breaking news. So the A-level results were just announced. I think just yesterday. Yesterday. And I'm, you know, obviously hearing stories because I've got colleagues who are, you know, parents of A-level students. And they were talking about how obviously you got the A-level results right now, and now your next step is to apply for, say you got really good results, and you want to apply to a good university. And obviously certain courses require you to write a paper or to, you know, talk a little bit about yourself, and prepare yourself for the interview process and all that.
Yeah.
I'm hearing, and this is where I'm a little bit annoyed. Oh, sorry, I'm very annoyed. I'm hearing, and you
What are
see
you
my
hearing?
face,
What are
right?
you hearing?
I'm hearing that there are tutors out there to teach you how to write the right papers to this university, or how to prepare yourself for some of these interviews
Yeah.
for these universities. And I'm extremely annoyed.
Why? I'm curious.
I'm annoyed because this is the space where you are growing as an adult from, you know, growing into your own as an adulthood. This is the time for you to think about yourself. This is the time to think about, you know, your email, your letter. This is the time to put yourself, think about yourself, your identity, who you are, what you want to do into the piece of paper. Not go through a template and not go through a tutor to think about what you should write to gain entry. That's not the point.
Because how's that person going to know you?
Yeah, the point is the point is to find yourself. The point is to find your voice.
Okay, I understand. So you're mad because these students are getting a professional to write about who they are, getting somebody else to define them. Is this why you're mad?
I'm mad because this is not the right process, and the process is not meant to be that. You know, because the process is meant for you to show what you've got. You know, give your best and show what you've got.
And it's organic. It could be messy.
It could be messy, but this is
Why don't we do it?
exactly why don't we spend more time to kind of work through what you're really feeling and your emotions and your intentions and all of that, instead of going through somebody who's got like the past record of success, you know, and all that. And I think that defeats the purpose. It's like both have the same end goal, by such different means to get there. And sometimes I wonder, is that goal so important for you that you will just do any means to get there? Yeah. Which is why I was so in alignment with what you said about, you know, people feeling obligated to follow a template. They have to comply. And I think it's just the Singapore system. We are so good at complying.
Yes.
10-year series, complying, follow the test, the tried and tested route.
There's a place for that.
There is a place for that.
Yeah. But in the life of a person's soul, you know, we need to learn that mess is okay. You know? I mean, as Madeline would tell you, like, when I see clients for vocal coaching, I try and always give the decision-making power back to the singer, back to the artist. Like, what do you want to do? And sometimes I don't know. That's like,
and sometimes I don't know is that a legit answer. Sometimes they really
so
don't
it's
know.
like, I will never choose a song for you. I want you to choose because only you can decide what song you like. And I always ask Maddy, what do you want to do? We're a team here. I'm not going to decide what you're going to do.
Right.
You're the artist. You're the one growing. You need to know what you want. And I'm encouraging people to go where they want. I think some of us have been brought up in a certain way where it's like we've been taught it's bad to know and say what you want.
And the thing is, there's no shortcut way to know where you want to go and what you want and who you are. It's always messy, trying new things, taking
let's
first
celebrate
steps,
it.
trying, failing, celebrating, trying, failing, and doing it again. And then you decide that eventually you got to where you are, who you are. Right?
That's life.
That's life. I love it. I love that. I love that it's messy, but it's something very beautiful.
It's a beautiful mess.
It's a beautiful mess, right? Because we're all a mess.
These things are rigidified and done just like everyone else. It's not that beautiful.
No, it's not.
It's not that unique.
Yeah.
I have one question.
Okay.
And I know you kind of talked about your purpose, right? But, just to really summarize this whole journey of you, in the last 10 years, so now that you're in this music profession, in these 10 years, and now you're back to Singapore for good, what is your purpose today?
Ooh, good question. I like that.
I think, I'm actually very focused on my purpose. But what I've learned with age is that the increased focusness on purpose comes only from being open to not knowing what it truly is.
That's deep. Can I say that one more time?
I'm like, I'm very focused on purpose. I've come to an age where I wouldn't do anything, unless it was purposeful. But I actually don't quite know exactly what the purpose is. You know why people want purpose? Because it's outside of themselves. There is something divine about cosmic. You can use whatever word you want. But for me, there's something heavenly about it. It has to be outside of yourself. That's why we're also hungry to find it. Because if we find it inside ourselves, we'll be so disappointed. Purpose always lies outside.
Right.
To the person outside of you, to the greater society outside of you. There's some service to do that can change something on the outside. I don't quite know what it is, but I know it will be in some, because the universe or the heavenly one never does something wastefully. I believe that the way that singing has redeemed my life. I told you that I had a really broken young adulthood. Today I'm not broken anymore. Today I'm I have joy and peace and hope and happiness that I never knew before because life came for me. And singing and artistry was used as the vessel for it. So I know from personal experience, I got into that mess of life and it was life that taught me that there is redemption, there is hope, there is joy, there can be new life for you. And singing was that for me. It was a means for that. And that's why I'm in this line today, because I know so well how singing can do the same thing for someone else. And I'm just a vessel for that. And only a vessel who has been through the same thing can be an effective vessel for that. What is my exact purpose? I don't know. I can't tell you. Right. It's not specific. Will I save Rwanda? Will I save singing? No, I don't know what the exact, but I know it's going to be just doing what I enjoy. Yeah. Purpose is not a heavy burden for me.
That's right.
It's just right now, just be joyful in the craft. Be joyful. I really love coaching people. My delight comes from seeing the delight of my students. My delight comes from seeing the fruits and rewards of my students and my clients. Just enjoy that. And I'm simply a vessel for something greater. Now that is purpose.
Yeah.
If I was the purposer, I would be carrying a heavy burden, but I'm just a vessel because I went through the same thing. All I do is just carry the message, carry the same tool that was used for me.
That's right.
That's right. And that's overflow.
Yeah.
So beautiful.
Just sitting here watching her, I want to say deliver the soliloquy. It's a beautiful soliloquy.
What's that? What's
It's,
soliloquy?
you know,
English
so,
word?
So in the play, it's like this actor or the actress will deliver like a series of lines, and it's a beautiful passage, right?
okay.
And it's uninterrupted.
Soliloquy.
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 Yeah, it's
Soliloquy.
a literary, theatrical term. But it's kind of watching you deliver that soliloquy.
You know, just
if I
now when she was
may.
speaking, I'm like, yeah, we should have our video camera
I know,
here.
I know. I swear I saw light coming from your
No,
words.
but I'm sure our
That's
listeners
true.
can hear that and sense
Yeah.
that from her voice.
Absolutely.
They definitely can.
Yeah, and you know and again this is something that we mentioned in the previous episode about first episode of season 2, finding your purpose. That you don't sit on top of a mountain and meditate and suddenly the purpose drops on you. It never works like that. It only works when we put in the hours and we put in the heart to do the work, and we allow ourselves to be vessels to deliver that work. To me, it's always kind of directional, but it's almost like never like an end point.
Yeah.
Do we want the end
Do
point?
we want the end point?
Yeah.
I
That
don't
would be
know.
purposeless.
Exactly,
Yeah.
right? What's
Yeah.
the point, right?
That's the joyful thing.
Yeah.
We want eternity
Mm.
from all this.
So just going through that journey, and watching her kind of deliver that purpose, kind of sharing your stories and sharing your talent and your gift and helping others with that in itself is purpose.
Yeah.
I feel. Yeah.
So one of the important thing that when we have guest speakers like yourself, we want to promote and let people know more about the services or the purpose that they can help.
Yes.
And I go to you for the pure curiosity of wanting to sound like a better version of myself. And for sure, I know in my gut that I'm sounding much better.
I can tell you
Right?
from your partner point of view,
Yeah.
you have improved so much.
Yeah, thank you.
You
From
don't have
the
to
point
know
we
from the gut.
started.
You can know from the mic.
Yeah.
Okay,
I can observe.
Yeah.
I can very critically observe. Yes.
Thank you very much, Jeremy, and for sure, to you a lot, Jen. So for me, I'm just curious to be a better sounding version of myself. But who can benefit from a coaching, working with you, and what do you provide? Who can benefit?
Everyone. And I say that only from experience because ever since I set up my voice teaching business in Singapore, I have had such a diversity of clientele that I did not expect.
Interesting. Tell us more.
I have people who come for speech coaching like Madeline, and she's, a corporate executive, but she needs to use her voice in a podcast or maybe as a DJ or, giving presentations to people. But I also have other people who are singers looking to improve in their artistry. I have so many young people who I think just need to be set on the right path, right? I mean, that doesn't seem like it's part of my job scope, but like yesterday I had a girl come in and she's got a beautiful voice, and I usually sit people down and get them to tell me their goals so that I can help them with their objectives. And the first thing she said to me was, "I want to be a famous singer." So every time I hear that, right, I always get a bit of a red light, like I need to set this person on the right path. So I asked her, "Why do you want to be famous?" And then she said, "I want so many people to know me." So over time, I had to tell her with a lot of encouragement, you know what? If you want to be famous, you actually cannot make that your goal. You actually have to make excelling in the craft your goal.
That's
Because if you don't excel in the craft, you won't be famous.
That's
But
right.
if you excel in the craft, you will get something much more than fame, which is joy in the craft. And fame will come at a time when you don't really want it. And then you can be truly free of its destruction. So, I sometimes end up saying things like that in classes where I'm like, is that part of my job scope? And but I just feel like my service is to give people what they need.
Yeah.
And sometimes that goes beyond the technique, that goes beyond the song work, that goes beyond the script. I'll give all that, but we have people growing in artistry, and we just have a lot of people who are growing in the heart.
I have to say this as a student, right?
As a student, go on.
You give a lot.
Needs a testimony
you give
here.
more than what we need. In fact,
Thank you.
Okay, so we may think we need something, and I think what happened when you were describing your student, right, is really more than just the teaching. You're not teaching. And I think I've ever shared this with you. When Jen coaches me, I walked out feeling possible.
Right.
I walked out feeling like, wow, you mean I can do this? I feel like a warrior.
Yeah.
I feel like I can take this on
right.
and I can create
Yeah.
magic. I feel this,
Yeah.
what do you call that? This belief that
Yeah.
Jen can give me.
That's right.
And it's more than just what I need. It's more than what I need. Yeah.
Yeah.
I loved
Can
how
I use
you
words lah?
Yeah,
It's
I
a
loved
feeling
how,
thing.
yeah. And I loved how you helped that student, right, or that girl with her intentions.
Yeah.
I think a lot of times we always talk about the why, the motivation, and the why behind why we do what we do.
And the heart.
And the
really.
heart, right?
Yeah.
And it's so important for young people, especially, to start learning about what's the why, what's my why, what's driving my actions, my behavior, and that's beyond the scope, but I think that is so powerful and it's so needed because then you can put in, I think, the hard work, and the hard work, right, to hone your craft.
I think for sure that this what Jen can do for people is really for anyone.
Yeah.
Even if you're not here to become a better singer or a better speaker, or if you just want to find out who you are, if you want to find your inner voice, I feel that Jen is
I love how you came back to the topic.
Like not
I love
promoting for the
that.
sake of promoting, right? But really finding out who you are, because I definitely found more of myself. I'm more aligned with myself in these few months than the last 2 years. And that's without the help of, that's with Jen and me working as a team to do this together, trying new things, doing things messily, doing crazy
We do
vocal
crazy things,
exercises, and
we have a lot of fun.
a lot of fun, a lot of fear, a discomfort, but it's a good discomfort. It's a loving discomfort.
That's right.
That pushes us.
And I also want to say, I think a lot of people, they don't realize how much confidence you give to yourself when you're able to speak well and present well. And you don't need to be a celebrity, you don't need to be a star, you don't need to be any of that.
You don't need to be famous.
You don't need to be famous, but I think but then you do have opportunities in everyday life to deliver, a conversation, host a meeting over a Zoom call, speaking for your speak as a best man or for your friend's wedding. There's so many occasions that we would, or even an interview. You want to be able to speak well, and the kind of confidence that people give you and the kind of confidence you have in yourself, I think it's immense when you're able to kind of articulate well, and you're able to kind of master the art of speech well. I feel.
I think to our listener, if you're listening to this and when you listen to Jen's voice, you have this belief, you have this feeling of wow, like you feel inspired, you feel light, you feel
see the light on the
illuminated.
voice.
It is the
thank
power
you.
of somebody who is really worked through her dark battles, her dark days, and have come to acceptance of it, and have found and is still finding that purpose, and wants to help Singaporeans find their inner voice. I think if you feel something from Jen's voice, then look her up. We'll definitely put a profile in the show notes.
That's very kind of you. I think the voice. No, I mean I think everybody knows this deep down, but one's voice is a very intricate part of one's self-identity. You don't find the voice, you don't know your self-identity. Because the power of life and death is really on your tongue. People learn to say a lot of things and they don't really know how that affects them. Like, I can't do this. All right, if you say that, I'm telling you, you won't. But if you say like, I can do this. I don't know how I'm going to do it, but I will. I'm going to try. It's going to be okay. This is a beautiful mess. Like you sort of talk yourself into life or destruction. I cannot say that enough. And more than that, what you find about your voice is only going to lead you to more. I think very much of this show is teaching people how to have more of life. Have more of life.
Absolutely.
And you find out about your voice, you're going to find out much. Most people come, they just want to achieve this one goal, but actually they find out. And I'm not bringing credit myself. It's really singing and artistry and the voice finding that does it. I'm really just the messenger and the vessel. But many people who come for voice lessons find much more that I didn't even know, that I wasn't even intending to give. And that's why I enjoy my job, because it's very surprising for me as well. I get to excitedly see what people's get out of it.
Yeah.
You came to learn one song. Hey, you actually learned to grow another register or that one. And then you learned how to have so much fun in it. So some people just came to learn a song, to pass an audition, to get a job, but they actually found joy in the
Love
craft.
it.
You came with a very specific goal. I want to be a DJ. I'll never forget that.
I want to sound like a DJ.
But today you're like presenting more. You loved the sound of your
and I realized my
you found
voice can
love.
inspire people. Yes, I
Yes.
found love.
And then
I
you found
found
purpose.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
So many people find much more.
Amazing. Okay, this has been an incredible episode.
Yeah, right.
I know.
I hope to you listening, you found some meaning and some lessons to take away. There's so much more. There's so much shared in this episode.
So much.
Practical tips, real stories, authentic or honest words by three of us, and for sure Jen. So
That's right.
don't take action. If you have something that is, if there's a voice in you that's asking you to do something that feels hopeful, feels
Life-giving.
loving,
Life-giving. Yeah, that's
go
right.
and do it.
Yeah, go do it. Yeah.
It
And-
won't be easy. Let's be real
It's a
about
journey,
it.
yeah, it's a
It will
journey.
seem risky, but go find your friends.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Go
Listen
for
to this program again.
That's a good plug. That's a really good
Yes,
plug.
and listen to episode 11.
Find people who encourage you.
Yeah, totally. And I do want to say, and if you have ever given a thought about improving the quality of a voice, wanting to speak better, improving artistry, you know who to look for.
Oh, thank
You know who to look for.
Yeah.
And of course, we're gonna end our episode with the
A
quote.
quote.
Yeah, we always do that, and of course, we always allow our guests to share with us their quote
Yes.
and what this quote means to them.
There are already so many nice quotes that was peppered in
I
this
know.
episode.
I can't wait to listen to
just
this
cannot-
episode
Yeah.
again. I'm telling you.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay,
Well-
Jen. Yes.
My quote is a little bit long because it's from Jerry Seinfeld.
Okay.
Because he's gonna he tells jokes. He's got a whole story about something. So I'm gonna just read it and then talk a little bit about it. So
Yes.
this is Jerry Seinfeld. Breakthroughs in skill come not from eureka moments, but from the accumulation of consistent, focused effort. He says, it's never been about the money. Instead, it's about the joyful work. Jerry says, it's similar to calligraphy or samurai. Like, I want to make cricket cages. You know those Japanese cricket cages? Tiny, with the doors? That's it for me. Solitude and precision. Refining a tiny thing for the sake of it. If you're more interested in what you have achieved or what your financial position enables you to do, then that thing that got you those things, you're screwed. In my opinion, you're screwed, he says. Okay.
Wow, I love that.
Yeah, we love it.
Tell us a bit
Tell
more
us
about
why.
it. Yeah,
Tell
yeah.
us why.
Basically, he's trying to say that we live our lives. Look, he's so successful as a comedian. I'm not sure if you've seen this very famous picture of him where he's sitting. In America, we have something called the yellow legal paper. Like how in Singapore, we love to use the foolscap.
Yes.
But in America, we use a yellow legal paper. You use that for note taking and stuff like that. So he writes his jokes. Jerry Seinfeld has millions of jokes. He's successful not because he's famous or, as he says, it's not the financial position that got you those things. It's not what you've achieved. He's successful because he enjoys his work. He can write joke after joke after joke. So this famous photograph of him is like he's sitting in his on his street in suburban New York City, and he's like the whole street was lined with his so many pieces. Every piece of paper was a joke, and it was like lining up the whole maybe the whole ground floor of City Hall. I don't know, but it's a big space, and it's incredible because every inch of that space was covered with all these tiny squares of yellow legal paper. The photograph is just trying to say, this is how many jokes he's written. Does he count what he's achieved? No, he's just, I love writing jokes. I love writing jokes. And this
enjoying
is
his craft.
Yes. And that's what it means. This Japanese cricket cages, tiny with a door. That's it for, it's all about the solitude as a position. So this is it for me, right? I can actually write a song in 10 minutes, but what I love about it is just correcting it a little bit, changing the tune a little bit here, playing that in a little different way. It's the same thing I love about voice coaching. Somebody walks in my living room, I'm going to tune this about her. I'm going to, refine that about that person. I excuse me for saying, I feel like I'm playing and tuning a person. It's just about that precision because, and that I know I'm in a room with a person, but I'm at solitude at that moment. I'm just looking at a thing and just tuning it. It's so tiny.
Yeah.
And that gives me great joy.
Yeah.
Playing with a microphone, fixing it up, putting the
Yeah.
this is life for me.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. Truly joy of the craft.
Yeah.
I think you've obviously chosen this quote because it embodies what you believe.
Yeah.
It really embodies what you believe. That
And you really embody the mission that we have in the Imperfect Rainbow.
Mm.
Like the 3 points that we have,
Yeah.
she just encapsulates it.
Yeah.
True and true.
We picked the right guest.
Yeah,
We picked the right guest.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Everything works well.
Yes.
Yeah.
I hope you have enjoyed this podcast episode. I
Yeah.
think we learn a lot. We are
Yeah.
inspired, sitting on this table, just
Absolutely.
listening to her.
And we are so thankful that Jen is
Super
here
thankful.
with us today.
I'm so grateful too.
Thanks for giving your time,
Yeah.
sharing your story, wholeheartedly, honestly. And I'm just so blessed, just to be here and have this conversation.
Singaporeans are blessed to have you back.
Yeah,
I am
totally.
blessed to have Singaporeans as my friends. Thank you.
Yeah, we're gonna send more of them your way,
So, we are done with this episode 11.
Yes, we
listening
are.
to our inner voice. My gosh,
Oh
we
my
got
God.
more than what we needed.
We got way more.
Right?
We got way more. Okay.
So, my name is Maddy.
My name is Jeremy.
We are the
Imperfect Rainbow.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks, Jen, again.
Thank you
so much.
Jen.
See you, everyone.
Bye.
Bye.